Hey, I'm Robert, Cook Saw Manufacturing. Today I want to show you a few parts that we offer. With the long lead times on sawmills over the past few years, people building sawmills has become a lot more popular, seeing a lot more of it. So here are a few parts that we offer if you're retrofitting a sawmill you currently have, or if you're interested in building your own machine. Before I show you some of these parts, one thing I do want to mention, Cook Saw, we are not a parts house. We do not sell plans, we do not give out information on how to build our sawmills. We are in the sawmill making business. That is what we do. Now these parts, we use them on our sawmills and we will sell them and we will help to an extent, but we do not offer plans or instructions on how to build a sawmill. These are common parts. You can buy them from us and do what you will with them. Start with, we have our roller guide system. This is our standard roller guide. It does have 8-way adjustment. It is a weld on, so you'd weld it on. Common is to have one on your stationary and your outfeed, so a movable and a stationary, infeed and outfeed on your saw blade. But the roller is precision ground, gives you great control. I can use a square head bolts to pivots, tilt my blade, and then vertical adjustment straight up and down. Then I have a key inside of here that will slide in and out. So I've got 8-way adjustment. This is the #1 on a sawmill for control. We like this a lot better than a block or sandwich guide system. There's about a 1/4 inch down pressure on this guide pushing on the blade, and that allows me to get full control over it. This is our standard retrofit. We also have a mega size. So you can see them side by side for comparison. But we have our mega size that will accommodate an 1.5 or 2-inch blade, and our standard size that will accommodate a 1-inch, 1.25 inch, 1.5, and a 2-inch blade. So both sizes are available. We also have a bottom control jaw. This is for our mega guide system here. I do offer it for the standard, but it bolts onto the bottom and the blade goes in between the jaw and the roller, and that acts as a safety net. So when I'm cutting and my blade starts to wander, maybe I let it get a little too dull, I hit some metal, but my blade starts to wander, there's a carbide strip here on this block, and if that blade comes down, it will catch it. Now, it's not going to allow me to saw any faster, any straighter, any better, but if I have a problem, it catches that problem, prevents it from getting worse. So if you're upgrading a sawmill, roller guide system, that is going to be your biggest benefit, the biggest change you can make right off the bat. So if you got a block or sandwich guide and you're looking for a little more control over your blade, I do like that roller guide system. So if you are building a sawmill, we have our drive bearing assembly. It has tapered roller bearings in it, very heavy unit. This is a 2 1/8 inch shaft. This is our standard size. We also have our mega size. A little bit heavier units, get a little more life out of it. Also has tapered roller bearings in it, and the drive side is a 2 1/2 inch shaft. So this is a little bit heavier unit compared to our standard size, but you'll have your, both pieces, you'll have your band wheel mounted here, and then your driven pulley mounted here off of a belt drive off of an engine is how that's set up to be used. And we get a lot of life out of these. It handles the side load pressure very well. So a lot of people have used pillow block bearings, and it does work, but over enough run time, they'll end up swapping to our drive bearing assembly because I do get longer life out of that. We also offer a tracking plate. This plate here does hinge in and out. You'll have 2 bolts going through for that adjustment, so it will weld onto your frame, and then our drive bearing assembly will bolt up into it and allows me to tilt that in and out, and that is for my band wheel to adjust the tracking on it. So we've got several band wheels here depending on different size blade. I want to tilt that wheel in and out. That gives me better tracking ability, able to put different size blades on it. Also has built-in adjustment for top to bottom. Not as much adjustment for the top to bottom, but it is there just enough to get my band wheel in alignment. Now we offer a tension hinge here as well. So I've got 2 different sizes. This is our standard, this is our mega. Standard size, it has that same tracking plate. As we just saw for the drive side of the mill, this will be the idle side. So this does hinge in and out. Welds onto your frame, and then we have a spring tension. So the crank handle here, I'm able to crank that in and out, and there's a little indicator, and that'll line up for correct blade tension. This is what we use on our MP32 and our HD32 sawmill. With that spring tensioner, especially with our steel band wheels, that blade enters the cut. It expands a little bit, not much stretch at all, but it does get a little bit longer going into some resistance. So that spring takes out the stretch out. So I'm able to enter and stay stable going into my log when I hit a hard spot in it. We call it a live tensioner. Now we also have our mega tension assembly. This one here is a little bit heavier. Same tracking plate on it. Has a little bit heavier spring in it, so if you're doing more of a production application or a wider cut, I do like the larger spring tension setup. And I'm using a jack, so I'm compressing the spring down to a certain amount to get the correct tension on the blade, and it's still a live tensioner, able to compensate with the pressure of the blade going through my cuts. Going with these tension systems, now sold separately, but a part of it, we have our idle shaft. Idle shaft does bolt into it, so when I'm putting tension on, that shaft moves in and out to create tension on the blade, and it fits with our idle band wheel. So I've got the standard and then a little bit larger mega size here. So depending on which size band wheel that you would go with, we've got the idle shaft that the band wheel slides into. So that's set up there. We've got the tracking plate and our drive bearing assembly for the drive side. We've got the tension hinge with the idle shaft for our idle side. And then we've got our band wheels. So starting with the 19-inch wheel, this is what we use on our MP32 and HD32 machine. 19-inch. Now these wheels, they have been ground. So there's a slight crown, and that is what's tracking my blade on the wheel. With our setup, I'm able to tilt this band wheel in and out, also top to bottom, to get full alignment. Allows me to really control that blade, get better cutting out of it. On our 26-inch wheels, now we've got two here, and I want to show you the difference between them. Our idle wheel has a bearing, and that bearing will slide onto our idle shaft. Drive side has a bushing on it. So I can put different size bushings in here for whatever size shaft that you're using. And that bushing is matched with this wheel. So what we've got on our drive bearing assembly, it's a 2 1/8 on the standard, 2 1/2 on the mega. So if I've got a 2 1/2-inch shaft, I'll have a 2 1/2-inch bushing pushed into the wheel. I take this wheel, put it on our machine, and I grind it true. So that bushing and band wheel are a match set. I cannot take this bushing out, put another bushing in, and still get the same performance. It would probably work, but it's not going to work as well as it would with the original bushing it was crowned with. These band wheels are out of round, they're out of true. The bushing's out of round, out of true. So when I mate them together and turn it as a complete unit, I can get a lot better control out of it. So when I put a dial indicator on this wheel, it's as close to perfect as we can get it. A true wheel's going to be less stretch, less pull on the blade, which gives me better blade life, gives me a little bit smoother blade between my guides, which is better cutting, better blade life. And then we also offer our 30-inch band wheel. All these sizes come in drive and idle sizes. If you are using a different setup here, I can set you up with 2 drive wheels, which is common for people building a machine. Our super drip system. Very, very useful, especially if you go with our steel band wheels. There is a shutoff valve and then a old-timey sight glass dripper. So I've got a little needle here. I can control the flow. We like to use diesel fuel. Automatic transmission fluid works very well. Kerosene, paint thinner, anything with an oil base is going to cut pitch a lot better than water or soapy water will. Now I can't flood my blade with diesel. I'll get it all over the wood, make a big mess, and it'd be very expensive. So our sight glass dripper, you will have to come up with your own reservoir, but it just plugs into your existing reservoir, shut-off valve on and off, and then the sight glass dripper. So about a drop or so a second coming down through here, and this hose, it's a little bit long, so you've got some to work with. You can cut it off if you need to, and it's got a plate and a felt pad. That plate's going to weld to your machine, and I like to set this up on the inside, incoming side of the blade, for the blade goes through the wood. and that felt pad will push down onto my blade. So I'm dripping a drop or so a second onto that felt pad. That felt pad wipes on the blade. So it's very conservative. I'm not wasting a lot of fluid, but that diesel fuel or ATF, whatever you're using, will cut that pitch and keep that blade clean. If that blade is able to stay clean, it's not going to generate any heat. With our steel band wheels that are precision ground, our roller guides that are precision ground, I'm not generating any heat on the blade. I should be able to cut all day long, put my hand on it, the blade should be cool to the touch. Now, obviously after the blade stops turning, it'll be ambient temperature, if I can keep it clean. If I get sawdust buildup, pitch buildup on that blade, it's going to generate heat. When the blade gets hot, it changes. Anytime you heat metal, it's going to change the properties of it, and then I'm going to lose control. It's going to start wandering on me, which is a wave up and down. So we've got our drip system. That is a very popular option. And then last thing I want to talk about is our blade alignment tool. Whether you're building a sawmill, have a sawmill, retrofitting a sawmill, you have to have a way of aligning that blade. This is a very simple device. It clamps onto the blade, and I can measure off of it to tell me if my blade is tilted up or down. If you do not have a blade alignment tool or some way of measuring your blade, you need to get that. If my blade is tilted down, guess what? It's going to dive down on the cut. Sharp blade does kind of compensate for some of that, but as that blade runs, as it gets dull, it becomes more and more important to keep my blade in alignment. We also offer some magnetic scales here on the backside. These strips, they just stick. I can line it up, and then you'll come up with a pointer to put in place. But we've got a 1 inch or 4/4 on a strip. We've got a 5/4 and 6/4 on a strip. This is our cross tie scale with 4/4 marks with a 6, 7, 8, and 9 inch. And then we also have a 1 and 2 inch scale that has the kerf included on it. We appreciate you watching our videos. If you've got any questions on some of these parts, want a little more information, you can always give us a call. We'll help you out on that. Again, we will not tell you how to build your sawmill, but I can give you more information on how our parts can help you out. Again, we appreciate you watching our videos.